there's a respect that you have to have for children because you have to have a respect for the fact that they are children.
Yep.
You have to respect the growth. You have to respect the teaching. You have to respect the innocence. And you have to respect to let them grow.
Mm-hmm.
Because with children, we can't just jump into them and treat them like adults because they have no idea. I mean, they're clueless. They're clueless. And I'm not talking about just newborns, infants, and toddlers. I'm talking about preteens and teens and even early 20s.
They don't know.
They don't
A lot.
know because they haven't experienced anything enough. They haven't experienced enough. You want to guide them. You want to make sure that they get to the point where they are at a level of understanding
Mm-hmm.
of all of these things and everything that they're going to have to come across. Like, for example, when I used to have to train a new hire, and they'll ask me, they're like, "Hey, so what's so and so like?" I'm like, "Oh, you'll find out." And I never tell anybody, "Oh, yeah, you don't want to talk to that person or watch out for that person or anything of that nature," because everybody's different with everybody else. Everybody's experience is different with everybody else. Everybody's vibe is different with everybody else. Everybody's energies and auras and everything, all that stuff, all of that mixes in differently with everybody. Just because I don't get along with somebody doesn't mean that you might not get along with that person. Y'all might be best friends, bosom buddies, best men at the other person's wedding.
We don't vibe, but hey, y'all go for it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't vibe, maybe y'all can go for it and y'all can kick it. Y'all can be best friends. And I got no problem with that.
Yep.
Just because I may not agree with this individual doesn't mean that you're not going to agree with them. It doesn't mean that you should have a problem with them just because I have a problem with them.
That's
So
true.
when people will say, "Oh man, well, what do you think?" Well, you'll experience that. You'll figure that out when you get to that point. Same thing with my kid. I'm not going to be the one to tell my kid, now, unless this is like a particular type of individual, like, oh, this guy is a drug dealer or raging alcoholic.
That's different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm here to protect you.
Yep.
Now, I want you to go out and have your own experiences with your peers.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was this kid. I'm not going to say any names, but there was this kid.
Wait, this you as a kid or
No, this is
right.
this is with my boy.
All right. You done blow my hair off with a couple.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna stop it. Save it for later on. Stories, man. I didn't even really realize
You
it.
got real folklore coming
I don't really realize it until sometimes I'll speak and I'm just like, man, that really did happen.
It's some compelling stuff, boy.
But so with my son, he had there was this kid that he would sometimes hang out with, and I was just like, this kid annoys me, but that's his friend. I'm not going to be the one to be sitting to say, yeah, I don't want you hanging out with him anymore. Why? Because he annoys me. That's no. How rude is that? How disrespectful is that? Again, respect. That's disrespectful. I'm not giving him the chance to even grow and understand an individual on his own. I'm not giving that kid a chance to make his own connection.
Yep.
Just because I'm old and cantankerous.
Wow.
Just because I'm old and cantankerous and I can't take this
house rock kind of thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I can't take this little whippersnapper.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm Mr. Wilson to his Dennis the Menace.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not gonna fool around and knock my own and like, no, I don't want you hanging out with him.
Get off my lawn.
Get off. Yeah, I'm not gonna be that. That's it. I'm not gonna be that get off my lawn guy.
Yeah.
I can't be that. I gotta respect the fact that he has to grow and he has to make his own connections on his own. How would it be if your boys, all three of your boys, would come to you and be like, you and your wife and be like, hey, mom and dad, can I be friends with that kid? And I mean, now all of a sudden they bringing you a whole list of kids that they can be friends with because the first few times they tried to make friends and you told them no to that person, now they got to come up to you for every for permission for every person that they run across.
It's not a healthy place to be.
Or they just become
recluse.
That's what I was about to say. They become recluses. And they just shiver away and never make ever a friend ever. They're always lonely at school. Then you're killing their social vibe.
Yep.
Now they won't be able to be functioning adults when they grow up.
Right.
So we got to respect the fact that these kids are developing. We got to respect our allowing them to develop, and we have to respect the way we guide their development. Because if we're not doing that, then like I said, you're hurting their future, their chances to be regular functioning adults.
I agree. And I think look, you have your first kid, so you start thinking about things. We're big people, you know, tall guys and things like that. Like, first thing I was thinking was, am I going to break him? Because they're
oh
little.
my goodness, yes.
I have my sister. I told you a sibling. We 2 kids in my family. My parents had 2 kids, and everybody else had 1 million. Right. So that, but I didn't have, and she's older, so I ain't have a little brother, little sister. So this thing, when my oldest is on the way, I'm staring down that tunnel. I'm like, man, look at all that new stuff.
Yes.
I got to learn. And then it's just other stuff outside that tunnel I don't know anything about. There's some stuff over there on the horizon. I'm knowing it's out there, and I don't know anything about that. And so I need answers I can box in. I'm a science guy. We got a problem. I'm going to break the problem down. And then I'm going to box an answer in. And you cannot do that as a parent. There is subjectivity, and no matter how much objectivity you put into there, you have to have the easy button doesn't work.
Right.
So, you know, so how I survived that was, on some kind of country stuff. It was like, it's been, some dumber people that's done this pretty well. And then,
right.
I'm thinking that I'm like, look at this guy.
If he could do it,
if he could do it, I think I can do it.
Yep.
Because he was, and I got a guy actually in mind who said I wasn't really that serious about it. Which we had fights about. So, back when I would really just argue with people.
Right.
In my 20s, boy, you strike up one with me, I'll just argue with you, and I'd be ready to pass out sleep by the time I got down. I didn't put all that energy in there. But now I learned, some people, it's just people got their minds made up. You don't need to waste your time doing that. You can be washing your hair. But, I was like, hey, he did that. But the other thing it's like, here comes this baby boy. This is my first time being a father. It is his first time being a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's his only time being a kid. I understand that. But it's his first time.
Yeah.
So if you go to work, you say, hey, man, come with me. You're going to do the medical version of a ride along. So, okay. And we get there, and these double doors open to the hospital. We walk in, and you say, okay, I got something I need to do. Here, take my badge, do everything that I do. I'll be back in 9 hours. And you leave. And they lock the door. And the people up front look at me, grab their stuff, and leave. And I have to go and do that.
Yeah.
I've been on Earth for a while. I can't do that.
No.
And it's not that I'm not capable of doing that. It's that I don't have any experience.
I'm about to say, you don't have the know-how.
I don't have any intel.
No.
I don't have any preparation. I don't have any of that. So the respect thing for your children is to understand that. And I do have a problem with parents that say, well, you should know that. And I will say, how would he know that? Oh, you just can't do that. I said, but really think about that. How would the person know that?
Right.
I've had conversations with my kids where they come and tell me something, particularly the oldest one, because you talking about somebody that a self-snitch, that oldest one, God bless him. He would just tell me stuff like, man, I don't think he didn't have to tell me that, but he did. And he's thinking I'm going to blow my stack, or, I said, okay, man, thanks for telling me. Look, this is what we're going to do about that. Mm-hmm. And so he's sitting there waiting, for the wrecking ball to come, or for, is he going to take my, when Thomas to train with him, it was, what was the name of that show? Little Einsteins. He had big jet. He had the ship they flew in.
Yeah.
And he's thinking I'm going to lose that. And I'm like, no, because this is what you did. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So you know that now. Here's what you're supposed to know. And I will be very, we mentioned medical stuff. I'd be very, I'd be, these are the symptoms, but here's the problem.
Yeah.
I think the respect thing for your children, you've got to have those conversations with yourself.
Yeah.
Most of the conversations about your children start in your head before you start spitting things out.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to be very calculating. I've even done things where I try to take a deep breath, not an exasperated breath where they think it's something to come, but I take a breath and I say, okay, think about what you're saying. Think about what you thought about before you say it.
Mm-hmm.
You already thought about it, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it again before you say it. Because now they could take these things and go out there. Because the one thing I'm certain of is when they repeat back something that you told them, boy, that feels good if it's a good thing. And my youngest is real good at that. He said, hey, you got friends up the street. He walks home and he's got this buddy he walks home with. I love that because now you got two people because this world, everybody ain't righteous.
Right.
And, sometimes it's bad weather. The parents up the street say, hey, we met. And how we met was it started raining on them when they were walking.
Yeah.
So the parent comes to get this kid and they see my kid. And he knew them because he would walk past his house and say hi. But he doesn't know them. He just knows his classmate.
Right.
And so she called me. And no, I was headed that way because I saw the rain. I was working from home. I saw the rain. I said, okay, I don't want to walk in the rain. I'm going that way. And by the time I got there, I saw my son shaking his head like this. That lady was in a car. Her son was in there. That's his buddy.
Yeah.
And she was trying to convince my kid to come out of that rain and get in that car. And he would not go. And I see this when I'm pulling up. And so we talk, we're friends now, and we're cool, we got numbers. So now, they don't even ask for her stuff at school. She did, oh, that's so-and-so's mom. She hung with her out. They understand.
Yeah.
And I just talked about that for 2 weeks. And he said this. He said, well, I didn't know them. I don't think you knew them. So I didn't get in. And he was 8 when that happened.
Woo.
And I was like, yeah, but she's like, he said, and he repeated it. He said, I didn't know them. I didn't think you knew them. So I didn't get in. And he's looking at me like, isn't this what you told me?
Man, so, man, come on.
Come on, grown up. Like, but I was really surprised as to how he was doing it.
I love it.
He was just,
I love it.
And you've been around, he's this super soft-spoken kind of guy, but he's got this quiet strength to him that I'm coming to realize. And he was shaking his head like, I see you in this nice SUV. And you look nice. I ain't getting in there. That's exact. I see this when I'm pulling up. I'm looking. It was to the left. I'm watching him.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know it's me. So she gets out. She said, look, just take my umbrella. Because she's just going to give him the umbrella. And she's like, I think she's thinking, he'll take it home.
Right.
Get it back. I think he might have taken that.
Right.
But I don't know. But he was standing there like, you bigger than me. Well, actually, pretty good sized guy. I don't know. She might. He's a pretty big guy now for 9 now. But he's like, you have to drag me in here.
Yeah.
And I think it was just that. But now I'm rambling. I will probably have to get back on it. But respect wise, be who you are.
He put some respect on your teachings.
He did. I appreciate him for that. Score 1 for the good guys.
Yeah.
Most of the time, these things happen. If you think about all the places your kid could screw up, most of the time they do. I try to give my kids credit as opposed to
give them
really,
the benefit of the doubt.
As opposed to I want to be the cool kid conversation at these happy hours. My kid doesn't do anything right.
Yeah, okay.
All right, man. I'm going to go over here. Because I don't need that. Because they don't want to hear that. Because when I was their age, I wanted some confirmation that I'm getting some of this stuff right.
Yes.
I very vividly remember that. And I had excellent parents.
Yeah.
I mean, A1, on it, consistent.
Yeah.
They were on top of it. I hit the lottery with them.
That's
okay.
Bad.
So with that said, I'm like, okay, I ain't them. But I tell you what, I can put forth 100% effort. And so this is what I want to teach them. Look, here's the consistency with Dad. Mm-hmm. Dad's just going to be who he is. In this vein, I don't have to worry about him being inconsistent.
Right.
Just be respectful and everything works out. Now, when you or disrespectful. When you try, like you said, say it a couple of times, tried you, whatever. I understand that you're going to do that. I never understand why. That's going to be your problem.
Yep.
I'm never going to be, well, I'm gonna normalize that behavior, the disrespect. I'm never gonna do that.
No.
And I think if you let them know first, by letting them know young, this is how it looks, it's easier when it comes later. That's what I should have been saying. And I think that's the thing that we don't do. Our generation, I will say to you, and maybe we could disagree and talk about this one day, I think we dropped the ball on that. I don't really think it's the kids as much as it's the people in charge of the kids, the parents, that allow things to happen.
Yep.
And they're like, I don't want to jump on this kid for that because it seems so much like my parent. And that is their basis for not doing things that will amplify their respect and their practice and respect. I can't stand that.
I don't understand that. I don't understand, well, my parents did this to me, so I don't want to do this to my kid. That's the opposite of what you should be thinking.
Opposite.
If your parents, if you feel like, because a lot of people, when they say this, they follow it up with they love their parents.
Right.
And that their parents, they feel like their parents did a good job in raising them.
Right.
And in all reality, they are pretty good people.
Right.
But they're so triggered by being punished by their parents that for some reason they feel like, okay, that's where their parents dropped the ball. But they don't even want to say that. They just want to say, I just don't like I remember my parents doing this to me and I didn't like it, so I don't want to do it to my kids because you felt some type of way. Dude, my mama whooped my hide a good couple of times. I got a couple of stories on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saving it for later.
Mm-hmm.
But it did not stop me from understanding I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that at the time. Heck no, of course not. Man, at the time, I'm just like, man, my mama mean. She beat me. She whooped me. She put that belt to my hide. But I needed that. I mean, if you met my mom, you would have seen she wasn't the tallest person. She wasn't the strongest person in the world. And she had a big old boy. So you know what she needed to do? She needed to show me I'm in charge. Not you, me.
This is my ship.
You're going to respect me. You're going to respect my house. You're going to respect what I do. You're going to respect what I do for you.
Wherever you are, you're going to do that.
And you're going to remember who you are every time you leave my presence. That's something that she put on me. That's something I'm trying to put on my boy. God help him. I think it's working. I think it's working. But I don't even think that's 100% on me. I think that's more on the fact that just God just gave me a really great. You talking about you hit the lottery with your parents? I hit the lottery with my son.
He is pretty awesome.
He's pretty awesome. I don't care what anybody says.
I've been that way since he got here.
That's
too.
Again, my point. Like, okay. My point. I think God pretty much just gave me a good one and just said, just don't break it. Basically. Hey.
Man.
So, respect. Two more. We're going to hit two more topics and we're going to bring it to a close. So, respect for self. I think this is a fundamental problem.
We got to talk about this
with society. Yeah. I think this is a fundamental problem with society because I think one of our main downfalls is the fact that we don't have enough respect for ourselves. So many of us, especially myself, when I was growing up and even up until probably my mid 30s, I was the people pleaser. I was a people pleaser. I wanted to make sure that everybody was happy and satisfied and in a good mood. And I was scared to rock the boat. Especially, part of that was, I told you how I got my butt kicked in elementary school so many times before, and it was part of that was, I wanted to be, I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want, to get beat up anymore. I didn't want to deal with people who were upset with me in any kind of way. So I wanted to do everything in my power to make sure that everybody was happy, even the bullies. I was again, a people person is an individual who is looking out for the needs and benefits of others at the detriment of their own. And that was me. That was definitely me. I call myself out on that. Like I said, and I did that. I dealt with that for 30 years. Easily. 30 years of my life. I'm still on the short end of understanding how I need to be respectful for myself and look out for me, while at the same time not disrespecting others, because there's a way that you can do it. You can respect yourself and not disrespect others in that mindset, because I got to take care of myself. I got to be able to fill up my cup, because I can't pour into other people with a dry cup, because I'm too busy trying to fill up the cup of 1,000 other people when I only have enough room for it's really just one person cup.
It's an impossible deal.
It's an impossible deal. Man, you know how many times I had to fight and deal with depression and burnout, all because I was so focused on making everybody else happy, to the point that even when I'm trying to make other people happy, I'm making myself absolutely gutturally miserable.
Going backwards.
Miserable.
Yep.
And I was hard to deal with. I was hard to be around, because here I'm miserable.
Right.
I'm miserable. And how am I supposed to, you're supposed to come to me for help and assistance.
I ain't got it.
And I ain't got it, but I'm still trying to give it.
Right.
All I got is all I got is a,
yep.
That's all I got. Powder. That's all I got. And I'm still trying to give you 25 ounces of water, healthy water. When all I have is just powdered dirt. Made no sense whatsoever.
Can't help me.
I was not respecting myself in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Oh, I have self-respect. No, you don't. You're letting people kick you in the teeth. Literally and figuratively. You're letting people kick you in the teeth. You are placating to other individuals just because you don't want to rock the boat, just because you want to make sure that he or she is happy. Hey, they're happy. That's all that counts. No respect for myself whatsoever. And I think, like I said, I think that's a fundamental thing with a lot of people in society, that they don't have any respect for themselves, because they're too busy trying to be. There are parents who don't respect themselves because they're too busy trying to be friends with their kids.
That's a big deal.
That's a form of disrespect for yourself.
The real pandemic.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to placate your kids. You're trying to placate your spouse. You're trying to placate your family members. You're trying to placate members of the church. You're trying to placate your friends. You're trying to placate your coworkers. You're trying to placate your bosses. All these people, you're trying to just make sure that their tushies are nice and soft. Their feet are scrubbed. Their toes are done. Their bellies are full. Their homes are everything, and all the things and everything that they need and taken care of. Yet at the same time, you can't even put gas in your gas tank. Can't put cheese on a cheeseburger.
You crashing out.
You crashing out. You probably can't even pay your rent. Rent due. Can I get an extension? No. Hey man, I got kicked out of my apartment. Can I crash at your place? I can't help you on that one.
Do that.
I know you just loaned me $5,000 last week, but I can't help you on that one.
Like, oh,
I got an extra bedroom, but I still can't help you on that one.
And you know what?
We about to go on vacation with that $5,000 you let me borrow, but I can't help you on that one.
And you know what though? That's tragic.
That didn't happen to me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying.
No.
That would suck.
We good. We good.
But I could see myself having done that at one point in my life.
And it's their right to say, yeah, you help me, but I ain't going to help you.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to be in a place where, if that's the conversation, you ain't pulling out your hair. In other words, if you make that choice, and it's the wrong one, how you outlined it is the wrong one. Because you you doing all these things and they're not in line with what should be sustainable as it relates to all things that are you, that encompasses the unrepeatable historical event that is you, right?
Right.
You're doing these things external and they're sapping everything that you need. It's taking your energy. It's probably affecting your health. It's physical health and mental health. It's affecting your finances. All these things in the world that you fight to try to have at least stabilized. And you can't do that because you do that with them. And then you have an expectation that comes back. And when it doesn't, now you're not in the valley. You're
below.
You're
digging your own grave.
subterranean.
You're digging way down there. Grave. You're right, subterranean.
Yeah,
That's
it's a tough place to be. But to that point, you have to be respectful and say, well, no is a complete sentence.
No is a complete sentence.
And I think we might have talked about this in part 1 or part 2, but I don't believe in brutal honesty. I think that's a passive aggressive thing.
Yeah.
I believe in honesty.
I believe in honesty.
And I believe in tact.
Yeah.
If I need to have a one-on-one with you, I'm not going to have a group speak with you. I'm just not.
Right.
There will be a pressing issue. It's flashing in my mind when I see you. There's a time for that. There's that word again. There's a time for that. But look, no is a complete sentence. And so, yes, people are going to, I don't like hearing no, but how I handle it is up to me.
Yes.
But it's disrespectful to you for you not to be able to say no and then to say yes when you're supposed to. Like sometimes you need to get up off your bleep and get things done. and you need to do that. And because it is respectful to your person, you're here now. What are you going to do? And that's the question that, many people ask and they don't have an answer. Sometimes they don't ask. It's it is what it is. I just fly by the seat of my pants. I can't do that. Respect means I am this person. I am this entity. How do I maximize these things that are within my circle? How do I then expand that? And how do I do that in a healthy way? How do I say, I had a finite amount of time, just like every other human on this earth. What did I do with that? How am I affecting people? Is the community any better because I was here? Because if it's not, that's a disrespectful thing to the community. It's disrespectful to me.
Right.
You have this ability by virtue of you being a functional human being. A doctor has your umbilical cord cut, and from that point on, you've got this opportunity that's coming up that you can do things, and you have to be respectful to yourself. You got to be like, well, I'm not doing it right, so I have to do this. I have to work out more. I have to do, I have to do other things.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, you're disrespectful to yourself. And I think that allowing things to come in. Look at your past. We talked about romantic relationships. Look at those. I would say, and I don't like generalizing between male and female, and we'll probably have conversations about that. I really think a lot of these things are the same, male and female. And I got a lot of disagreement with that. People say, no, men are much different, women much different. I think a lot of these commonalities are really there.
Yeah.
But I will say to the ladies, look at that past. The folks you dealt with romantically, and it's like, wow, how respectful were you being to yourself by bringing that person along for a ride? How did that work out for you? And whatever that means.
Yeah.
Because I'm not judging. I'm just saying, how does that look for you? And how does it look when you have a person, and I do know a person who wants to go and has this endeavor and includes college and this career choice and literally has people around them that says, no, that won't happen for you. And this person will talk to me and say, man, it ain't my thing. I said, but that's what you want to do.
That's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, but it ain't my thing. I said, that's disrespectful. How do you mean? Because usually disrespect people say is you acting on someone else. It's actually coming back to you. And it's disrespectful to your entity, your purpose, man. And it is a top level destroyer of people's lives. You just can't see your way out. And if you don't get out of that funk that it causes, man,
you're going to have
God bless you. It's going
Man, you're going to have so much fight, so much trouble. It,
you can't
survive.
You can't survive that. You have to. And I have my middle boy makes fun of me all the time. He said, "Man, we go places, you won't stop talking to people." I said, "Well, I like people, and when we talk, I talk." And that's it. And I said, if it's business, man, you just got to sit there because you need basketball shoes.
Hey,
I need to talk. But more than that, he's like, and you're always trying to encourage folks to do things, and I'm looking at him like, that's what you're supposed to do,
right?
But it's a respect thing. I respect you enough to not let you listen and downgrade yourself. Say, hey man, you might not hear this all week. I'm gonna tell you right now, you're on the right path. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. Respect for people where they're going before they get there,
right,
is helpful to me as a self promoter. Say, hey, I feel good about that. You're controlling these things in your circle.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be big on waking up and just feeling great about where you are. I think people are scared to wake up one morning and say, man, I kind of got it under control now. And I think that's very common. It's disrespectful to your person to not allow you to get there, because the only reason you do that is to say, well, the only place to go is down. But if you never get there, you're always down.
Yep.
I got more. I'm rambling though. I was like, I'm gonna talk for 2 minutes, and then I went with Coach.
No sweat it. Don't sweat it, man. So, respect for the Almighty Creator.
Oh man.
The Genesis, the Alpha, the Omega, the pinnacle. God.
It's the one right here.
It's the one. And I put that in my notes. Pinnacle. Because there is no respect without God. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to let you know right now. There are going to be times where I'm just going to go off and start speaking about God. I'm not preaching. You're going to choose whatever religion, whatever thoughts that you choose to choose, and that's fine by me. I'm not here to try to convert the world. I'm just here to speak my truth. So here's what I'm going to say. God is the creator. God created you and created everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that you feel, everything that you taste, everything that you touch. You cannot respect human life if you do not respect God. You cannot respect creation if you don't respect the person who created it. I mean, we can look at that in regards to, I'm not getting political here, but we can look at that in regards to Elon Musk. There are a lot of people out there who cannot stand Elon Musk so much that they'll key somebody's Tesla or ram into somebody's Tesla who has nothing to do with Elon. Some people who I know have a Tesla and don't like Elon themselves, but it doesn't matter. You got their product. So guess what? Elon created this thing, and I'm going to crap on and kick and beat, slash tires, key, scratch, ram into anything that is considered part of his legacy.
Mm-hmm. How's that working out?
How's that working out? It doesn't do anything to him. That's the same way, like, back in the day, whenever, when gangster rap was really big and everything of that nature, people would get piles of CDs of like NWA CDs.
Yeah.
And burn them because they didn't like NWA. They didn't like the creator of that music. Never mind the fact that you buying the CDs is what's giving NWA their money in the first place.
And no,
So
most
you're really
definitely.
benefiting them, even though you're trying to symbolize the fact that you don't like them. You're still benefiting them.
Yep.
It never made any sense. Same thing with people who burned jerseys. People didn't like Allen Iverson for some reason. And they would just take his jerseys and burn them and stuff of that nature. And I'm just like,
The sales would go up.
the sales would go up.
So you taped it.
He had the number one selling jersey for a few years straight. And some people were burning his jersey just because they didn't like the guy. They didn't like his cornrows. They didn't like his tattoos. They didn't like his ideals on practice, even though they misinterpreted everything that he said about that, which is hilarious to me. But I mean, it makes no sense. If you don't like the creator, then you don't like what they create. So if you don't respect the creator, you don't respect what they create. If you don't respect God, you don't respect what he created, which is everything. So the world is damaged through pollution because you don't care about, dropping plastics in the ocean. You don't care about throwing away trash in the middle of the road or on the side of the street. You don't care about.
You ain't supposed to do that in Texas.
No, you don't mess with Texas.
Don't mess with Texas.
Mm-mm. But you don't care about pollution. You don't care about human life. You'll take a life and not think anything of it because it doesn't matter. Who cares? It doesn't matter because
purge.
because it's part of the fact that you don't. I'm not saying it's all of that.
Just part of it.
Part of it, a nice chunk of it, is because you don't respect the creator. If you don't, and again, I have a healthy respect for God to the point that every decision that I make, and I have some impulses where I want to do something or I want to say something, but I think about what I've read in the Bible and I think about what God has commanded for me to do. And I'm like, out of respect,
I'm not doing that.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut, or I'm going to keep my hands to myself, or I'm not going to get in my car and drive over here and say what I want to say or do what I want to do. I'm just going to be like,
I'd like to.
I like to,
I'm not.
but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to, if it gets to that point, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to pray about it. Lord, help me get through this. And honestly, man, I discovered this more and more and more over the past 3 years. God answers prayer.
Amen to that.
He answers prayer. It may not be the answer you want to hear. It may not be the answer you want to see or receive, but God answers prayer. It's phenomenal because it's like there were times I'm like, Lord, if this is what I'm supposed to do, please tell me if I'm doing wrong. Tell me if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Tell me if I need to turn back and go back to where I was before. And every time I ask that prayer, within less than a week, I'll get the answer. And I'm thankful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful. I'm utterly thankful. But it's only because of the fact that I do respect his word and I respect his creation. And when I say creation, I'm not talking about just the earth. I'm talking about all things in the earth, all things that's beyond the earth. Because I respect everything that he's created, which includes humanity and myself and everybody else who's been part of my life in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's only because of that healthy respect that I actually that I listen.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do I respect him, I respect this. I respect us. I respect you. I respect my son. I respect my family. I respect my loved ones. I respect my brethren. I respect my coworkers. I respect my patients. I respect their loved ones. It's and I respect the bag boy at HEB. I respect the waitress at Fish City Grill. I respect so I mean, it's so many people, but just because of the fact that, look, we're all human and we're all trying to figure this whole life thing out.
Real time.
None of us are perfect. Everybody is struggling with their own situation. Everybody is moving at their own pace. Again, like you mentioned before, some people do things in their 20s that you're just doing now in your 40s. Time has there is no timeline that you're supposed to follow. So everybody has their own timeline. I was telling my boy the other day, I said, it's weird if you just sit back. 'Cause we were standing. I said the other day, this was months ago. We were standing at MD Anderson. We were at one of the parking garages, standing at the top of it, and I was like, "Do you realize that every car that passes by is a main character in their own world?"
Mm-hmm.
He's really big into anime and other animated type shows too. And I was like, "You realize that everybody in every vehicle is an MC in their own world?" And he was like, "Dang it!" I said, "Every car that passes by is a whole new show." And he was, and he kind of paused and he said, "Dang, that's kind of deep."
That's true.
And I get, but that's facts though. I mean, everybody is their own main character to their own movie or their own show. Some shows last 100 years. Some shows last only 28 days. Some shows don't even get a chance to take off.
I think all that's true. I think again with going to the practice theory, it's if God's the pinnacle, then what's your practice look like? This isn't an academic exercise where I'm very steeped in the history and the Bible and things like that. So therefore I'm okay. It's a practice. It's how am I doing what I'm supposed to do as a kingdom builder to make sure that I respect God in a way that he would deem to be sufficient. Well done, my good and faithful servant. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is a life's endeavor. And that is, what did he say in that movie? And Tom Cruise in Affirm said it's a ship that never reaches its port, right? So your whole life, you're running that race and you never get there. That's kind of a tough thing to internalize. But then when you talking about God, that it's not you're running and you don't get anything back. You get the protections and you get the things that he promises in the word that we have. Thank God for the word. But I guess it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Matthew 7 and 12, I think. Matthew chapter 7, Matthew chapter 12. I have to look it up.
Yeah.
But it's what everybody calls the golden rule.
Right.
That is a baseline way to self-check in any situation that you're in to see if you're being respectful. Would you want what you're doing to happen to you? And there have been disagreements I have where people have beef with me about something and they think it's legit, or I have beef with them and of course I think it's legit. And they say, well, I did this because of this. And I said, I don't really think that's a legitimate reason to do what you did. That was the harm that you caused isn't justified by the reasoning you did it. They don't believe that. And I said, would you want me to do what you did to me, to you? And if you do, can I?
Right.
Right. And it's like, I want you to let me do what you did to me. And if the answer is, well, no, well, there's mistakes and there are things, people fall short. Nobody's perfect. So, you and I have screwed up before we got on this podcast today, and post this podcast at some point in the very near future, we'll probably screw up again. And these things are screw ups for sin in this context. But to be respectful to God is to honor him.
Yes.
By moving forward with things that you think if he were to actually have a conversation with you on your cell phone or send you text messages, but kind of already did send us text messages. But if he were to do that, he would be pleased with what you're doing. And it gets really, really simple for me at that point. You get an idea in your mind and you endeavor to complete that. And when you think about that, there's this thought bubble that pops up. And it's like, wow, I do that. I'm on my own.
Yeah.
That means
Yeah.
God wouldn't be in it.
Nope.
So you choose to do it or you don't, but you get that thought bubble. I mean, this pop-up video. Shout out to Pop-Up. I love that show. Pop-Up video is just showing these things, and it happens. And at that point, you're at a crossroads, flesh-wise. There's no crossroads with God. He knows.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one way, but you have one because you have this carnal take on life.
Yeah.
But to be respectful is to understand that you have a choice, and it is to make the best choice that you can. It is to take these ideas in your mind and saute and condense them down to something to where you say, I know which way I'm going to go, and I'm going to go that way. I'm going to be respectful to God in that way. Even though he knows I'm imperfect, even though I know that I'm not going to always get it right, the exception is that I'm getting it wrong. It's not that I get it wrong all the time. And I think that's the respect piece. I think that you also have to be this beacon when you leave your home so people can see what God has done, or at least can see the possibilities of God. If your life is crashing down, my goodness, you do not need to articulate this every time it happens.
Right.
Because you're doing this, and now people that are saying, well, I want to be more of a light, but look at this guy. Chris is nice. He's gloomy. So I'm going to be gloomy. And what gloomy means is I'm not showing or doing anything in earnest that is helping me be a kingdom builder or anybody else be one. And I think the respect piece is there. Understanding what you need to do or seek that understanding so that God can be pleased.
Yeah.
It is a simple thing to articulate. The endeavor is tough. Yes. Because you got bullies in 5th grade. You got girls in junior high and high school. You got money you want to spend stuff on. When you got people pleasing, you got all of that. Yeah. And it's all coming at you, whether you ask for it or not. And I think that if you're respectful by honoring God, by saying, I am committed to your teaching, then you're on the right path. So you're not on the shoulder. You get out of it. It's like when you're riding down one of these highways and over there, it's letting you know.
You got that time.
Hey, if you keep going over here, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
The little strips, I forget what they call it. But,
oh, you're talking about the wake-up strips.
The wake-up strips. Yeah. Look, you get... Yeah. Well, you're over there. You get that a lot of times. What are you going to do about that? But before you even go over there, stay in your lane.
Mm-hmm. Stay in your lane.
And be as spiritual as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So that God will say,
straight and narrow.
That fellow is respectful of what I gave to him. He didn't have it right at first, but boy, he got some understanding. And I love what he did with his life. That's respectful to God.
Facts. Man, we went far and much longer than I expected on this topic, but I love it. This is exactly what I'm wanting.
I was fighting against that. I promise you that.
Trust me, man, we're going to get it. It takes a while to get there, but we're definitely going to get it.
Gonna get it right next time.
Well, that concludes the first recording of Okay, so hear me out. Podcast. Just bear with me podcast.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you listening, tuning in. Please continue to tune in. We'll be dropping new episodes every week. If you have any comments, any questions, or anything you want to hear us articulate about, please feel free to reach out, tap in at any time. You can find us on Instagram. Podcast is streamed everywhere that you can find the podcast, which includes Apple Podcasts, includes Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, so on and so forth. But thank you for listening. Chris, this is going to be something that's going to be going on for a while. So I'm really feeling thrilled about this and feeling excited about this.
I'm ready for the next one, Doc.
I'm ready for the next one too.
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace, love, prayers, and always make a great day.